Right. All right. Quickly, A Year of Learning by Sue and Ann Garelick, in memory of Malka Perlman and Philip Mann, and the deceased family from the Holocaust: Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yosef Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, and Yerivka Pro Rosner bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah Beth Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch. Karen, get me some water. Shall share her children and grandchildren in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Arav Akiva. Marsha Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Ariel Paul Federbush, Ariel Pinchas ben Arav Shimon. Sharon and Fred Lisker, the family, and many friends, in memory of the dear mom, Harriet Freeman El Bas Yaakov. Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Siddell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan. Friends of Avi Gitler, Romeo ben Shimon, and Marsha Gitler, Shana Bas Yeshaya. Friends of Toby Paris, Sarah Tova Bat Yisrael Dov. Friends of Malka Levy, Malka Bat Yosef. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim. Many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi. A Days of Learning sponsored by Sandy and Sid Goldschmidt in honor of Stephen Victor, completing all of Shas. May he continue learning in good health for many years to come. Hakarat Hatov to Norma Nissel and Benny Benjamin for the daily Chumash class. Hakarat Hatov to CTO, Clay Kodesh, and administration. May Hashem is having Aliyah, Craig Rafia, Beth Yishem Matzliah, and L'chol B'nai Israel, a good gebenched Yah.
Amen.
Okay, just a quick drink and we. Okay, let's go back to the bottom of Lamed Zion, Hamud Beis. Okay, it's discussing, remember, those people that are going to be praised. Okay, this was all Agadita. Okay, and the one we're going to start off with and then move along is Queen Helene. Ve'afhiasta tavla, and she made this kind of a tablet, a golden tablet, supposedly where the Sota section from the Torah was written. Shema'at mina. So we learn from this, Kodvin Megillah Latinok V'het Lamed Ba, that it would be permissible to write a scroll, sections of a Torah, in other words, only part of a, let's say, section, okay, that could be taught, right? Amar Reish Lakish Mishum Rabbi Yanai be'alef bet. No, he disagrees, says Reish Lakish, namely that the words were not written out. It was done in an abbreviated format where the first letter of each word was put down, in this case, Meitive. So the Gemara challenges, Keshehu kotev, lo ever kotev masha katuv b'tavla. Okay, the objection is that he looks, okay, when the scribe writes, he looks and he writes what's written on the tablet. Ema, and therefore I would say, Ro'ev kotev kemasha katuv b'tavla. That normally then he would write what's exactly written on the tablet to be given to the Sota woman. Meitive will challenge that. Keshehu kotev, ro'ev kotev masha katuv b'tavla. You said that when he writes, he looks and writes what's on the tablet. If that's the case, Uma katuv b'tavla, im shechav ish otach, ve'im lo shchav, im satit, im lo satit, hatam. In other words, what's written? The pasuk, all right? If a man lay with you, and if he did not lay with you, if you strayed, if you did not stray. In other words, This argument is that the full text of those psukim were written on that. Okay, and indeed, says the Gemara, Hatam. That's what was written there, B'Serugin, as we go on to Lamed Chet Amud Aleph, right? It was alternating words and initials. It was almost like a code, okay? A word and then a letter, a word and then a letter. And the scribe would know it well enough to be able to know what to write. Okay, now we get to new material. The third example, right? We said that Queen Helena was the second, right? Prior to that, the example was Ben Katin, or Munbaz, really, King Munbaz. Now we get to Nicanor, right? Nicanor ne'asuni sim l'dalo total. That with Nicanor, there were miracles done for the doors. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita. Manasim na'asu l'dal totav. What were the miracles that the sages said were done for his doors? Amru, they said, Keshehalach Nicanor lahavid latot me'Alexandria shel Mitzrayim. When Nicanor went to bring copper doors from the city of Alexandria, known for its craftsmen, okay? And he was bringing them for the Beis HaMikdash, right? But what happened? B'chazirato amad alav nachshol shebayam l'tab'o. There was a sudden storm that came up in the sea, and it threatened to drown him and everyone else on the ship. Okay? Nadlu achat mehem v'hetilu haliyam. They took one of the copper doors and they threw it into the sea. V'yadayim lo nach hayam midza'apo. But the sea still did not desist from its raging. Right, going on. Bikshu lahatil et hachavarta. They wanted to cast in the other. Amadhu uchracha. He grabbed hold of the door and sort of embraced it, wrapped himself around it. Amar lehem hitiluni ima. He said, throw me in with it. Miyad nachayam mizapo. Immediately the sea rested from its rage. V'hayam mitzta'er al chavarta. Okay, and he was deeply saddened regarding this other door. Kevan shehigil in the Mala shel Akko, once they reached the harbor of Akko, Haytam evatz betzet v'yotzami tachat dufnei hasfina. Okay, what happened is that the other door actually sort of somehow had been caught underneath the ship and then floated up. There it was. When there were others who say, Bria shabayam belata, that there was a creature that had swallowed it and then spit it out onto the land. Now, the Aleha Amar Shlomo, and about this King Solomon was supposedly had said, Korot batenu arazim, verehitenu routine, that the korot, the doors, the beams, of our household, namely the temple, are made of cedar, and the rehitenu, the furnishings, the inside, in other words, the doors, barotim, they're made from cypress. Al tikra barotim, don't read it as cypress, ela barit yam, but rather covenant with the sea. Lefichach, therefore, kol hasha'arim shahayu b'mikdash nishtanu liot shel zahav chutz misha'arei Nicanor. That when the Jewish people had enough funds to say upgrade, okay, the gates, right? They made all the other gates of gold, with the exception of the gates of Nicanor, because of the miracles that were performed associated with them. And there are those that say, haita, because the copper actually, I'm going to say, shined brightly, okay, almost like gold. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, he says, Nechoshet klonita haita, v'haita meira k'shel zahav. It was like a fine, refined copper, okay? And the Greek word kolonita, okay, means that it's shined to a high gloss, okay? And therefore it was very similar in its appearance to gold. Okay, we get to a new Mishnah, okay? Now, in this Mishnah, what are we going to look at? Okay, we said that we're still going to deal with some agadita, excuse me, okay? And it said some people were going to be praised and some people were going to be just the opposite, cursed.
Censured.
Censured, okay? Now, so our Mishnah asks, Ve'elu lignai, and these are the ones that were going to be looked on unfavorably. Okay. So Beit Garmu, the house of Garmu, remember they were the ones who baked the showbread. V'lo ratzu lelamed al ma'aseh lechem hapanim, because they were not prepared to teach others how to make the showbread. Showbeit of, okay, Showbeit of Tinas, and the house of Tinas, they were the ones who made the incense. Lo ratzu lelamed al ma'aseh ketoret, because they were not prepared to teach others how to make the incense. So the Gemara continues, the Mishnah continues. Who else might be considered lignai, unfavorably? Hugras ben Levi, right? Why? Haya yodea perik bashir v'lo ratza lelamed. He knew a certain method, a melody, okay, style of music, and he did not want to prepare to teach it. Ben Kamsa, another individual, Lo ratza lelamed al ma'aseh haktav. He wasn't prepared to teach a special form of writing. Al harishonim ne'amar zecher tzadik levracha, ve'al elu ne'amar b'shem rishayim yerkav. On the earlier ones, we say the memory will be for a memory of the righteous for a blessing. On these other ones, we say that their name of the wicked will rot. Now, the problem is we're not sure who we're referring to here. And so therefore the Gemara picks up as we continue to try to clarify. Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita, right? The following example, okay? Beit Garmu hayu beki'im b'ma'aseh lechem hapanim v'lo ratzu lelamed, as it reminds us in the Braita, that the house of Garmu were familiar experts in making the showbread, and they didn't want to teach it. Sholchu chachamim ve'eviu umanim me'Alexandria shel Mitzrayim. The sages sent experienced craftsmen from Alexandria, from Egypt. V'hayu yod'im la'afot k'motan, and they knew how to bake like the house of Gamzu. V'lo hayu yod'im lirdot k'motan, but they did not know how to remove the showbread from the ovens and put them into the ma'arechet, okay, for the showbread. Okay, so what happens, right? So it tells us, right? Shahalalu misikim mibachutz, because these heated it from outside, va'ofin mibachutz, and they baked them from outside. Okay, v'halal, and these others, namely the house of Garmu, misikim mibifnim, va'ofin mibifnim. They heated them from inside and they baked them inside. What happens? Halalu pitan metapeshet. These others, the Alexandrian artisans, their bread became moldy. V'halalu ein pitan metapeshet. And these others, the house of Gamzu, their bread did not become moldy. K'sheshamu chachamim b'davar amru. When the sages heard about the matter, they said, Kol ma shebara Kadosh Baruch Hu l'chvado bara'o. Anything that Hashem created, he did for his honor. As we cite a pasuk, Shne'emar, Kol hanikra b'shmi l'chvodi bira'ativ. Okay, everyone who is called by my name, I created for my glory. V'chazru beit Gamru l'mekoman. And they returned the house of Gamru to their proper place. Shalchu lehem l'chachamim v'lo ba'u. The sages sent for them, but they didn't return, right? Kaflu lehem scharan. They doubled their wages. Uba'u, and they came. B'chol yom hayu notlin shnei masar mana. Each day, in other words, their daily wage was doubled, okay? So it used to be 12 mana. V'hayom esrim ba'arba. Now it's 24 mana. Rabbi Yehuda says, B'chol yom esrim ba'arba'a. Every day it had been 24. V'hayom arba'in u'shmona. Now it was 48. Amru lehem chachamim. And the sages said to them, this is to the, right, Beit Garmu. Ma re'item shelo lelamed. What reason do you give for not teaching? Amru lehem, they said to them, Yodim shahayu shel Beit Abba. Okay, hayu shel Beit Abba shel Beit Bayit ze atid licharein. It was known to our family, this early ancestor, okay, that this house was going to be destroyed. Shema yilmod adam she'eino mehugan. Perhaps it would be taught to somebody not appropriate. V'yilech v'yavod avodah zarah becha. And they might use it in making for something of idol worship. Ba'al davar zeh mazkirino tam l'shvach. And for this reason, we remember them with praise. Me'olam lo nimseit pat nikiyah biyad b'neihem. Forever we find that they never had the pure, refined flour, okay, of bread, made into bread in their hand. Shelo yamru mima'aseh lechem hapanim ze mezunin. So that no one would ever say that they used the flour for the showbread to make their own personal bread. V'kayei ma shene'amar v'yitem neki'im ma mehashem u'miyisrael. That they should be considered clear, right? Let's say before Hashem and the Jewish people. Okay, let's go to the second example. Shel Beit Avtinis, similar situation presented. Beit Avtinis lo ratzu lelamed ma'aseh Torah. They didn't want to teach how to make the incense. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Beit Avtinis hayu b'ki'im b'ma'aseh Torah v'lo ratzu lelamed. They were expert in making the Ketoret, but didn't want to teach. Shalchu chachamim ve'viu manim b'Alexandria shel Mitzrayim. The sages sent for artisans from Alexandria, from Egypt. V'hayu yodim lefatem kimotam. They knew how to mix, combine, prepare the incense. V'lo hayu yodim laha'alot ashan kimotam. But they were not able to raise up the smoke as the house of Avtimus was able to do so. Okay, right, so what happens? Shel halalu tamar oleh kimakel. V'shel halalu maftzia lakan ulakan. Okay, in other words, the Beit Avtimus, theirs went up thick like a column, like a stick, straight up. These others, okay, the column of smoke shifted from side to side. And when the sages heard, they said, right, the following. Whatever Hashem created, he did, right, for his glory. Right? Shenamar kol pa'al Hashem l'ma'aseh l'ma'anehu v'chazru beit Avtinis l'mkomam, and they returned the house of Avtinis to its place. Sholchu lahem chachamim v'lo ba'u. Sages sent for them, they didn't come. Kaflu lahem scharan v'au. They doubled their wages and they came. B'chol yom hayu nodlin shnei asar mana. Every day they used to get 12 mana. V'hayom asrim ba'arba. And now 24 mana. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, b'chol yom asrim ba'arba, v'hayom arba'im b'shmona. Rabbi Yehuda said before it was 24, now 48. Going on. Amru lahem chachamim. And the sages asked, saying them, Mara itim shalol lamed. Why didn't you teach to others? Amru, they said, Yodin hayu shel beit Abba, shabayat ze'atid lecharev. Okay, that was known to one of our ancestors that this house would be destroyed. Amru, and therefore they said, Shema yomod adam she'ino mehugan v'yilech v'yavod avodah zarah b'chach. Perhaps somebody inappropriate will learn and he'll engage in idol worship with it. And for this reason, we mention them with praise. Right? Me'olam lo yatzat kala mevusemet mibateim. Forever, no bride ever went out perfumed from their homes. Ukishenos im isha mimakom acher. And then when they engaged and married a woman from another place, matnin ima shalot titbaseim. They made it a condition with her that she would never put perfume on. Shalo yamru b'ma'aseh haktoret mitbasmin. So that no one would say that they used incense, okay, from the Ketoret for their perfume. The Kayem Mashine'amar, V'itim Neki'im Hashem Umi Yisrael. It said, you shall be clear before Hashem and before Israel. Further stories. Tanya Amar Rabbi Ishmael. Rabbi Ishmael's teaching as follows, a Braita. Pam echad hayitim halech b'derech. One time I was walking on the road. Umatzati echad mibnei bneihem. And I found one of the house of Tinis. Amarti lo, and I said to him, Avotecha bikshu laharbot kvodan. Your ancestors wanted to increase their glory, right? And not only that, v'ratzu lema'et kvod hamakom. And in doing so, they diminished the glory of Hashem. Achshav kvod makom bimkomo umi'at kvodam. Now the glory of Hashem remains as it was, but your honor is diminished. Amar Rabbi Akiva. Says Rabbi Akiva as follows. Pam echat sachli Rabbi Yishmael ben Luga. One time Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Luga, told me the following. Pam echat yatzati ani be'echad mibnei beitam l'sadeh. One time I and one of their household, again of Tinis, went out in the field, v'laket asavim, to collect a variety of herbs. V'ra'iti, and I saw, shesachak u'bacha, that he was laughing and crying. Amarti lo, I said to him, mipnei ma b'achita, why are you crying? Amarli kavod avotai niskarti, I remember the glory of my family. Mipnei ma sachakta, and why are you laughing? Amarli, he said to me, she'atida kadosh baruch hu lachzira lanu, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu will ultimately return it to us. Umipnei ma niskart, and why do you remember this? Amarli, he said to me, ma'aleh ashan kenegdi, that there is a smoke-raising herb in front of me. So I said, her'ehuli, I said, show it to me. Amarli, he told me, shvuahi biyadenu, she'ein mar'ina tol l'chol adam. It is an oath in our family that we do not show it to any person. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, he says, Pam matzati zaken echad u'megilat smamain biyado. Once I found an elder Okay, and he had a scroll listing the various ingredients of the ketoret. Amarti lo, I said to him, "May I and Ata, where are you from?" Amarli mi beit Avtinasani, I'm from the house of Avtinas. Uma biyadicha, and what do you have in your hand? Amarli Migilat Samamani, I have here in my hand a scroll of the spices. Auli, show it to me, I said. Amarli Kozman Shabet Abba Hayu Kaimim, as long as my ancestor's house was in existence, Lo Hayu Motzrino to L'chol Adam, we would not give it to any person. V'achshav, and now, Harehu L'hacha, V'hizaher ba, here it is for you, and be careful of it. Ukeshabati V'sachti Divrei L'fnei Rabbi Akiva, and when I mentioned and told this story to Rabbi Akiva, Amarli, he said to me, Me'ata asur l'sapar v'genutan shel elu. It is forbidden, therefore, to mention them unfavorably. Mikan Amar ben Azai b'shimcha yikra'ucha u'b'mkomcha yoshivucha. From here, Ben Azai made a statement, by your name they will call you. In other words, they'll call you back to your position, okay? And then your place, they will make you seated, okay? And furthermore, and from your own they will give you. A person may not touch that which is prepared for another by Hashem. And no one takes control. In other words, a king does not reign until another king finishes his reign. Hold on. Okay. All right. Now, we want to continue with the Gadita and talk about the other people that were mentioned, right? Hugras ben Levi b'chule. Okay, remember he was the one who wouldn't teach the music. Tanya taught in the Braita, keshehu noten kolo b'neima, machnis gudla lo l'toch piv. When he would present a beautiful melody, he would put his, let's call it his thumb, inside his mouth. Okay, I'm not sure exactly, right? Umaniach etzba'o bein hanimin, and he would put his hand, okay, between the strings. In other words, he would be playing a kind of lyre, right? Lyre, all right? So he would pluck it, okay, close to his face, right? Ad shahayu echav hakohanim nizrakim bevat rosh la'achoreim. Okay, and his voice was so sweet, right, that his Kohanim would be suddenly, so to speak, taken aback. Now, another example, Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita, Ben Kamtzer, lo ratzeh lelamed ma'aseh ktav. He didn't want to teach his technique of writing. Amru alav shahaya notel arba'a kumasin ben etzba'otav. They say that he used to be able to put 4 pens between his fingers, okay? In other words, he invented some kind of a contraption that he could put his hand in and therefore use his fingers to maneuver 4 different quills, let's say, or 4 different pens, right, between his fingers. Right? Ve'im haita teva shel arba'a otiot, and if it was a word consisting of 4 letters, haya kotva bevat achat, he could write it in a single motion. Amrulo, they said to him, ma ra'ito shlo l'lamed, what are you saying that you're not going to teach how this can be done? Kulam matzu tshuva l'divrehim. These others found an answer for their response. Ben Kamtsar lo matzat tshuva ledvarav. But Ben Kamtsar did not come up with a response. Right? And so the Braita continues, Al Harishonim ne'amar zechet tzadik levracha, v'al Ben Kamtsar v'chaverav ne'amar v'shem rishayim yirkav. So with these earlier people, Ben Gamzu, Ben Avtimus, etc., they're praised, right? Memory of the righteous be for a blessing. But for these others, Ben Kamtsar, the name of the wicked shall rot. Okay. Now, the Gemara asks in a new statement, Mai v'shem rishayim yakav. What do we mean when we say the name of the wicked shall rot? Amar Rabbi Elazar, he explains, Rak vivut ta'aleh b'shmota, v'lo maskinen b'shma'ayu. Okay, that the rotting, decay, will come, so will be associated with their names, all right? And their names will not be called. In other words, people will not name children after them. Metiv Ravina. Ravina challenged this. In other words, how can you say that if somebody does bad, that nobody is named after them? I'll give you an example, just the opposite. Maaseh b'doeg ben Yosef, shenicho aviv ben katan le'imo. What about the case of this young man named Doeg ben Yosef? The father died, he was raised alone by his mother. B'chol yom hayta imo modato b'tfachim v'notenet mishkalo shel zahav levet hamikdash. Each day she would measure him as he grew, handbreadth by handbreadth, and she would give money to the base of Mikdash. But when the temple was destroyed, right, and we read in Eicha of what happened, that women ate their children, okay, right, tuvachatal va'achaltal. She had to slaughter him and eat him. V'aleha konen Yirmiyah. And about this is what Jeremiah laments. Im tochalna nashim piryam v'lalei tipuchim. Okay, citing the pasuk in chapter 2. Okay, women shall eat their fruit, the children in their care. Mishiva ruach hakodesh v'omeret. But the divine spirit responds, Im yeherei b'mikdash Hashem kohen v'navi chazei mai salek bei. Okay, namely, what happens? It's because priests and prophets were slain, and this is what befell them. Amar Rabbi Elazar. So Rabbi Elazar then responds and says, Tzaddik, a righteous person, me'atzmo, is recognized for his own deeds. The Rasha, a wicked person, mechavero, is recognized by the company he keeps. Tzaddik me'atzmo, tichtiv zecher tzaddik lebracha. As it's written clearly, the memory of the righteous, singular, okay, is for blessing. V'rasha mechavero, and the wicked is known from his associate. Why? Because the pasuk says, V'shem rishayim yirkav. The name of the wicked in plural will rot. Okay, going on there. What do we have? V'marle the Ravina. Ravina lahahumi rabbanan. Ravina said the following. All right? Hava mesader agadata kame. To one who was a teller of agadata. Okay? Mina ha milta ta'amur rabbanan zecher tzadik lebracha. On what basis do we find, okay, the phrase zecher tzadik lebracha? Amarle dahakti. He bases it on the following. He says pasuk zecher tzadik lebracha mideoraita minalam. This concept On what basis it can be found in the Torah? Dichtiv v'Hashem amar hamechaseh ani me'Avraham asher ani oseh. Am I going to hide from Abraham what I'm going to do? Uktiv, and afterwards it's written, v'Avraham hayo yihyeh l'goy gadol v'atzum, that Abraham will become a great and mighty nation. Okay? So in other words, the example, that's one example. Mina ha milta da'amar rabbanan shem rishim Yaakov. On what basis do they say that regarding the wicked and Lot? Amarle, he said, dahakati. Right? Because here it's written, B'Shem Rishayim Yaakov. Where is it written that? Midoraita minalan. On what basis? Tichtiv. V'yahal ad Sodom, that they camped as far as Sodom. Ktiv, and afterwards it's written, V'anshe Sodom Ra'im V'chataim L'Shem Ma'on. And the people of Sodom were very and exceedingly wicked. Now, Amar Rabbi Elazar, again, Sadiq dar ben shnei rishayim v'lo lamad mima'asehim. A righteous person can live among two wicked and not learn from them. Rasha dar ben shnei tzadikim v'lo lamad mima'asehim. A wicked person can live among two righteous but not learn from them. What's his example? Sadiq dar ben shnei rishayim v'lo lamad mima'asehim. That a righteous person lives among two wicked and doesn't learn from them. Ovadia, okay? Ovadia was the minister who lived at the time of Ahab and Jezebel. Rashad dar ben shnei tzadikim. A wicked person lives between two righteous. V'lo lamad ma'asehim ze Esav. Esav, why? Because he grew up in the household of Isaac and Rivka, and yet he remained wicked. New piece. V'amar Rabbi Elazar again. Mibirchatan shel tzadikim ata lamad klal sha'im. From the blessing for the righteous, you learn to a curse for the wicked. Mikalalatan shel rishayim ata lamad bracha tzadikim. And from the curse of the wicked, you learn blessing for the righteous. Mibirchatan shel tzadikim ata lamed klal rishayim. Dichtiv, how do you know? Okay, from the blessing of righteous, you learn cursing for the wicked. Ki yadativ laman asher yitzaveh. Okay, know that, right? Know him to the end, he will command his children. Okay, that was said for Abraham. Okay, uktiv batre, and afterwards it's written, Vayomer Hashem zakat Sodom ba'amara ki rabba. And afterwards it's written, the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah was great. Okay, so in other words, from the righteousness of Abraham, we go, excuse me, to the exact opposite of Sodom. Okay. Umiklalatan shel rishayim atalamad bracha tzadikim. And from the curse of the wicked, you learn the blessing of the righteous. Dichtiv, because it's written, V'anshe Sodom ra'im v'chataim l'Hashem, v'Hashem amar el Avram, acharehi parade lot me'amo. Okay, the men of Sodom were wicked, and God Hashem said to Avram that Lot should be separated from them. Amar Rabbi Elazar, afilu b'shvil tzadik echad olam nivra. Even for one righteous person, the world is created. Shneamar, Vayar Elohim et haor kito. Why? And the God saw the light; it was good. Ve'ein tov elat tzadik. Shneamar, Amru tzadik ki tov. Right, making the parallel that the righteous is good. Furthermore, again, Amar Rabbi Elazar, Kol ha'mishakech davar mitalmudo, gorem galut levanav. One who forgets any part of his learning can cause exile to his progeny. Shneamar, v'tishkach Torat Elokecha, eshkach banecha gam ani. Because you forgot the Torah of Hashem, I will forget your children. Rabbi Abahu Amar, Moridino to migdulato. Rabbi Abahu says, no, it means that he reduces the person from their greatness. Shneamar ki ata hada'at ma'asta be'emtsa'acha mechahen li. Right? That you rejected my knowledge, I will reject you. You shall not serve me. Let's go on. Okay. Now, Amar Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, he says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ein Sadik niftar min ha'olam, ad shenivrat Sadik moto. A righteous person doesn't pass from this world until another righteous person is created. Shneamar v'zarach hashemesh uva hashemesh. The sun rises and the sun sets. Ad shelo kafta shamsho shel Eli, zarcha shamsho shel Shmuel haramati. Until the son of Eli extinguished, okay, then would ultimately come the son of Shmuel. Amar Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. In the name of Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, saying Rabbi Yochanan, Ra'ah HaKadosh Baruch Hu shetzadikim u'atin, Amad u'shtalan b'chol dor v'dor, Shneamar ki Lashem mitzukei eretz, v'yashet alehem tevel. He claims that Hashem saw the diminution of righteous people, and therefore he planted righteous people in each and every generation. Okay? Now, further, Amar Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan again, Afilu b'shvil tzadik echad ha'olam mitkayem. Even for one righteous person, the world exists. Shneimar, v'tzadik yesod olam. The righteous is the basis of the world, right? Rabbi Chia Didei Amar, Rabbi Chia himself said, Mehacha from here, Raglei Chasidav Yishmor, that his feet, he keeps the feet of the pious ones. Chasidav, what does it mean, pious ones? Tuva mashma, that there are many of them. Amar Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, Chasido Kativ, but it's written pious one. Okay, it may be read one way, but it's written another way. Now, Amar Rabbi Chia Bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kivan sheyatzu rov shnotav shel Adam v'lo chata, shuv eino choteh. He says that according to Rabbi Yochanan, as if it's such that for most of one's years, a person does not sin, okay, he will not ever sin again, or ever possibly sin. Shneamar reglei chasidav yishmor, citing again, keep the feet of the pious ones. Rabbi Shilai Amari, in the academy of Rabbi Shilai, they said, Kivan sheba'al yado davar avera pam rishona ushniya ve'eno choteh. That if someone situation presents itself a first time and a second time, and the person does not sin, shuv ve'eno choteh, then he will no longer be tempted, so to speak, to perform that sin. Shneamar raglei chasidav yishmor. Again, keeping the feet of the pious ones. Reish Lakish, says Reish Lakish, Mai dichtiv. What do we mean when we say, Im leleitzim hu yalitz v'la'anavim yitein chen? Concern the scorners, scorns them, but the humble, he gives grace. Ba'alitma. Litameh, sorry. Comes to impurify. What happens? Porchim lo. They open him. In other words, they open the opportunity for him to carry out perhaps the sin. Ba'litaher, if he comes to purify, Musayinoto, it assists him. Tana debe Rabbi Yishmael is taught in the academy of Rabbi Yishmael. Mashal Adam Shaya Mocher Neft Va'apatra Simon. This is similar to a person who sells both crude oil, okay, naphtha, as well as balsam, pleasant oil. Okay? Why is that coming to tell us? Let's go on just a little bit. Ba'lim dod neft. If he wants to measure himself for the naphtha, for the bad smelling thing, Omerlo madodata ba'atzmacha. The seller says to him, you measure it yourself. Balim dod afar simon. If somebody wants to measure, to weigh out the balsam, which is pleasant smelling, Omerlo, the seller says to the customer, Amtemli ad she'amdod imach, kadei shenitbasem ani ba'ata. Tells him, go ahead and wait for me, and then I will measure it out for you so the two of us can be perfumed. Okay? So I'm going to have us, the rest of the parak, okay, continues. So let's try to pick up a little bit. Tana de Rabbi Yishmael, okay, taught in the academy of Rabbi Yishmael, okay, Avera metamtemet libo shel adam. Sin makes a person stupid. Shneamar v'lo tetamu bahem v'nitmetem bam. El tikra v'nitmetam ela v'nitamtem. Okay, in other words, don't impurify yourselves, right? Implication being, read it, not don't be impurified, but don't be stupefied. Tanu Rabbanan. What does the pasuk mean? Okay, not to impurify yourselves. Adam mitamei atzmo ma'at, mitam'ino to harbe. If a person allows himself to be impurified a little, he will impurify himself greatly. Mitam'ino to milamala, if he impurifies himself above in heaven, ba'olam hazeh, mitam'ino to le'olam haba. Okay, then they will also purify him in the world to come. And finally, Tanu Rabbanan, we're finishing the parak, V'hikadashtem v'yitem kadoshem. Pasuk says, according to the sages, according to Rabbanan, sanctify yourselves and you'll be holy. Adam mekadesh atzmo ma'at. If a person sanctifies himself a little, mekachino to harbe. Okay, he will, they, namely Malachim and Hashem, will help him sanctify himself many times. Milamata, above. Mikachino to milamala, if he sanctifies himself below. Be'olam hazeh, mikachino to le'olam haba. Then they will also help him be sanctified in the world to come. Hadran alach amar lehem hamamuneh. When we finish that parak, that's where we'll stop today. And we'll pick up then with the new Mishnah on the Lamed Tet Amud Aleph tomorrow, God willing. All right? Everybody stay well.